Hey, what's up guys, it's Marquez Brownlee from the MKBHD channel, back with a review video for the Droid Dog YouTube channel, and today we're going to be taking our full look at the Motorola Droid 3, the successor to the very popular Motorola Droid 1, and that successor, which is the Droid 2. We're going to look at how the Droid 3 compares and how it stacks up to the modern competition, so without any further ado, let's take a look. So going through the hardware inside and out, we'll start with the outside. On the outside, we have a 4-inch QHD display coming in at 960 by 540 resolution, which is really nice. I'm not a huge fan of the QHD display on this phone, but the resolution certainly is very nice. On top, you have a VGA front-facing camera, you have your speaker and your microphone, and your 4 capacitive buttons here on the bottom. You can take a look at the tour around the actual hardware of it. It's actually thinner than the original Motorola Droid, but very sturdily built. On the right hand side you have your 2 volume rockers. On the left hand side you have your mini USB and HDMI ports, and that can be used for display mirroring. And on the bottom it's actually pretty clean. You can see the little chin that it has there, very trademarked. And up top you have the 3.5mm headphone jack and the centered power button, which used to be over on the right hand side. Also, one of the biggest things about this phone is the keyboard, and that, to be honest, is my favorite feature of the phone from how I've used it. You have a 5-row keyboard here with a dedicated number row, and very nicely spaced out. The keys are really nicely, the tactile feel of these keys is really nice. I haven't had a problem typing with it. It's much better than the original Droid keyboard, and even better than the Droid 2 keyboard, which I didn't like at all. So this phone definitely beats the Droid 2 in all categories, despite it being so recent. On the inside, you also have a Tegra, it might be a Tegra 2, but it is a dual-core 1 GHz processor that powers this baby, along with a ½ gig of RAM. On the back here you can get a better look at that HD video recording camera. It's actually an 8 megapixel camera that will record 1080p video with your dual LED flash, or maybe that is actually a single LED flash. You've noticed phone manufacturers have seen that dual LEDs are a little bit too bright. And on the back here you have your speaker, which is much smaller than the original Motorola Droid speaker, as you can tell here, but it is pretty loud, especially on speakerphone, and pretty crisp nonetheless. You also have your Verizon and Google branding and the Moto logo. So that's the rough look at the outside of the Droid 3. This phone itself is running Android 2.3.4, the newest version, so you saw that screen off animation there, that is from Gingerbread, and it is also running the newest version of Motorola's Blur software. Now, I've said this before, I love Motorola hardware, but I'm not a fan of Motorola software. And you know, they've done a better job with it in this iteration of the Droid. The Droid 3 has a newer version of Blur than the Droid 2, but I still prefer vanilla Android. If anything, if I had to have a skin, I'd probably pick TouchWiz, but that's just me. So we can take a look at the newest version of Blur here. Since you guys like to take a look at phone reviews without any sort of custom launchers, this is it. This is Motorola's Blur. You can see that they've still kept this blue theme with the notification tray, which is pretty standard. The app drawer at the bottom here kind of flows in, and it has this 3D scrolling effect. This is the same 3D scrolling effect that's present when you switch home screens. You can see here they kind of flip out and flip in, which is kind of cool. And the widgets up top do make some little movements. You can see the light fades across here. They had some nice touches added in, sort of like a finishing polished effect that gives it a nicer feel. Now this dual-core processor does power through Moto Blur pretty fast. Opening applications is usually a snap. There's no problems with lag that I've had. I used the Droid X2 over here for a while, which also has a version of Moto Blur. It's 1 generation older of Moto Blur on the Droid X2, and there has been pretty much no lag on this. Now, of course, when you're using the Moto Blur custom launcher, you can add your own widgets from Motorola. You can add Motorola's wallpapers they built in, and even add some folders or some other Motorola shortcuts. Here's an example of a really well-made Motorola widget. This is a contacts favorites widget, and you can say that there are 4 contacts in the favorites by default. If I tap on one, I can actually pull up the information about them, maybe call them, etc. But what's really cool is that I have more than 4 favorites, so when I swipe down here, brings up this neat little animation where I can add more favorites, tap on any favorite again, and view their information. Swipe up to hide that. This is a really cool full screen widget. I don't know if this has been around for very long, but it certainly wasn't on the last generation of Moto Blur. So it's nice to see that they've added features and not just added a whole bunch of crapware. Now, when we go back home, we can see all of the different applications that have been added by default to the Droid 3. So there are a lot of them, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't call them all bloatware, but you do have all your VCast apps, you do have your customized music player, you have City ID, Blockbuster, MotoPrint, guided tours, GoToMeeting, NFL Mobile, a whole bunch of stuff. And that's another reason why I prefer vanilla Android, so I can decide what comes on my phone besides the stock apps. But that's something you should know if you do plan on using this phone. Another neat feature about this phone is, of course, the QHD display. We'll go ahead and open the market here so you can see how much screen real estate you do get on a 4-inch display with 960 vertical pixels. It's really helpful to be able to see a whole lot of information on the screen at once. Another version or place where you can see this is in the browser. So if we visit Google Mobile, there's a whole bunch of blank space at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and visit droiddog.com just for kicks on the Wi-Fi network that we're actually on right here. It's a pretty quick Wi-Fi network, and this will kind of demonstrate the dual-core processor's speed and how it handles larger websites like DroidDog website. And this is actually, I believe, going to load the desktop version first, because that is how... actually, it doesn't load. It loads the mobile version. We'll go ahead and switch to regular theme just to see if it works. And that's basically it for the desktop experience. Basically, the 960 vertical resolution is one of my favorite parts of this phone. You can see a little animation when we flip. That's also new to Moto Blur. I don't know if you noticed in the Droid X2 there was no screen flip animation, so that's really cool that they've included it. Also, something to note is that this hinge mechanism itself is really sturdy. It feels really good to the touch. The Droid 2 wasn't that good with the hinge. It was kind of loose. I don't know if it was just my Droid 2 or my sister's or however that worked out, but the Droid 3 hinge feels really sturdy right now. So we can go ahead and browse a little bit, scroll up and down. The scrolling is a little bit choppy sometimes, especially on larger sites, but pinching and zooming on text isn't a problem. We can go ahead and scroll and pan around here. You can double tap to smart zoom. So that works pretty well. No real problems with it at all. I'd say I do prefer some other browsing alternatives like the vanilla Android browser or some other preferences I have, but that's just me. So basically this is a really solid phone. This camera is really good. It takes 1080p video. It takes 720p video if you want it to. 8 megapixel photos. Is really nice, solid hardware build quality. The software is pretty good. If you're not a fan of Blur, you can probably get away with using something like Launcher Pro, even if you can do without these widgets, or ADWEX Go Launcher, whatever your deal is. That's up to you and that's your preference. And this phone's processor will really power through anything. So if you like it, you can view this this full review at the DroidDog website. And this is just ringing a notification here, but you can check out the review on the DroidDog website, and even check it out at the Verizon Wireless website if you're interested in picking up one yourself. This has been MKBHD with droiddog.com. Thanks for watching this review video, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.